Meeting to order. You have an agenda. Are there any additions?
Yes, there is.
Yes?
Yeah, I have one district grant, I guess, ask.
Where are the grants? Right here. Okay. That's 13E. And did we didn't add about the, or we're not going to be with that tonight about the gas step board? Did we get the letters?
We got the letters, it was fairly late,
Okay.
and we still have time, so I figured we could
Yes, at the next
end of the
COW. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, an approval to, or motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So,
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Conflict of interest declaration, anybody? And you can do it if something comes up and you feel it is, you can add it later on in the meeting if that's as it comes up. Okay, we have a presentation. Presentation by Linda Gallagher. Linda Gallagher, and it's regarding the splash park. So Linda, you can go to the book.
Mike. My name is Linda Gallagher, and this is Jessica Trask, and we're part of the Splash Park Committee, and Phil Mooney as well, and Nicole. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the rationale behind the splash park, a little bit of the history about what we've done, and then kind of our request to you. When you think about a splash park, there are 4 words that come to mind right away: play, inclusiveness, accessibility, and safety. A splash park in our area would meet the needs of the youth and families in our community. Along with providing the physical activity, we know that it will also provide social and emotional learning opportunities for our youth. And when you read the research on poverty and mental health issues in our area, when they talk about provincially 1 in 4 children live below the poverty line, and in our area 2 of 4, we know that a splash park would provide a facility that would be free. A free outing for families, adults, seniors, community members to take part in. And in terms of addressing mental health concerns, one of the most recommended, means of addressing the issue is to encourage unstructured outside play. And that is exactly what a splash park would do, along with it being family friendly, healthy. It would be safe in that when you look at numbers in terms of injuries or drownings in the pool, this is a much safer option, and it would also enhance our community. When we did some tours of splash parks, we saw that they indicated to us there were a lot large numbers of families using the facilities. And when we think about attracting doctors and anyone else to our area, having such a facility is certainly an enhancement to our community on a broader basis. So maybe you want to talk about that.
So a little bit of history. We've obviously discussed building this at different sites: the South End Playground, Beacon Park, Arcadia School, Central School. But the Mariner Center kind of housed all of the criteria that we were looking for in terms of availability of change rooms and washrooms, the parking, the shade, sun orientation. It's kind of wide open. There's no trees and stuff that overhang there. Accessibility, transportation, the bus goes by there. Water availability, the expansion, ease, connection to other facilities, the security, lighting. It's always kind of wide open, so the vandalism hopefully wouldn't be an issue. So we kind of felt that the Mariner Center would be the best spot out of all of those locations. We also believe that this project will not only enhance the present facility and future development, but we would provide but would provide accessible, family-friendly, healthy opportunities, like Linda said, for all of us living in the municipalities and the town of Yarmouth as well. Like Linda said, her and Phil Mooney and Frank Grant toured the splash parks in the valley, so
We had a good time, right, Phil?
Except for one little incident, yeah.
We'll have to talk.
I
Yeah.
got splashed.
And we visited each one, and so we approached in terms of the providers of the equipment, and in the package that was given to you, you'll see a design by ABC Recreation, and every one of the ones that were built in Shelburne, Middleton, Berwick, Kemple, and New Minas were all by the same company. The Splash Park Committee has met with the management board of the Mariner Center, and they directed us back to the 3 municipal units, and so that's why we're here. What are we looking for? Well, your support. We need permission to proceed on the site of the Mariner Center as one of the 3 partners in that project. In the Mariner Center, we feel that we need your permission before we can proceed. We would need 206 square meters, as well as property for a change house and the operational equipment. We will need your financial support down the road. We've spoken with Zach Churchill, and he, first of all, before we can do any fundraising or any applications for grant, we have to have a site confirmed, because that seems to always be the criteria. First, you have to say where you're going to be, and then I'll be meeting with Zach Churchill and Chris D'Entremont to look at both provincial and federal funding, as well as your support. We would like to do our fundraising through, and I say it's the community enhancement, but it is the asset donation through the town of Yarmouth, so that we have a place for the funds to be given, and that we don't have to operate a separate account. Support through grants and fundraising, and a willingness to take over the operations as a group or collective group through Recreation and Public Works when the project is completed. So that's kind of the information in a nutshell. We know that the cost of the project is about $200,000 for this splash park equipment. We felt that there would be a need for $50,000 to get water to and from the splash park and any site restoration that has to be completed and the startup, and then $100,000 for the building, so the total cost would be $350,000 for the splash park.
There's more here that
I know you probably have questions, so.
any questions? Councillor?
So the 180 to 8, what we've got here, it says a quote, 180 to 880, that's for the equipment.
Yes.
And then you said,
And the installation.
right, so what's the additional again?
We estimated $50,000 to get water to the park itself. If it were on the Mariner Center property, although there are some access points to water, we're not exactly sure where the park would be located on that land. So $50,000 to get that, and regardless of whether we use the changing rooms or facilities at the Mariner Center, we still need a building that would house the plant portion of the water park. And so we felt it would probably be in our best interest to build a separate change room so that they weren't running in and out of the Mariner Center.
Can I, one more question? So the water, is it recycled? I presume it probably is recycled?
We would like to go that route, but it almost doubles the cost at this point.
Yeah.
So that is something that we would be looking at in the future.
Because I was thinking of your water cost, and I was saying, gee whiz, if you had to be able to, but it's that much more.
So when discussed,
The one in Middleton,
Yes,
they already have the equipment in place in case they, down the line that they could do it. So they already have the equipment in place, they just haven't put the system in yet, but it's built for that, and they could probably do the same thing with this one.
so
Incorporate
something,
it, and then when it seems fiscally feasible to do it, then
Do it then.
implement it, yeah.
And
Thank you.
speaking to, we looked at this splash park and compared one to Summerside PEI and asked them about the cost of water usage, and it was
Yeah.
8,000 to 10,000 for the 4-month period.
That's it?
Yes, because they're on a timer, so it doesn't run all the time. You have to activate it, and they also, we can set it up so that things run on a timer once you hit the initial start.
Right.
So
Very good.
it's not something that would be just running water.
Steadily.
Mhm.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to, I just
Yeah.
question. So this is the first step, like we've had some meetings, and the first step is having to get permission from councils,
Yes.
from the 3 councils in order to proceed. Because I know you're probably thinking, well, you know, why isn't the location secure before they're coming asking us for money? But they have to ask permission to be able to locate there. So they've been to the board already, but the board has redirected them to come speak to councils to make sure that it's okay with us.
Makes sense.
The one thing, we're not owners of the Mariner Center, we're
Yeah.
funders.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think,
But I think just to answer that, Mr. Muse or Warden, to answer that part, I think they're looking for buy-in from all 3 municipal councils. So any support that we have from Argyle will be greatly appreciated. And I think when any provincial or federal applications, if we have Argyle's name on the application, it's going to be good. And it just shows goodwill for all 3 councils to support it. We'll be making the motion. Linda came and did the presentation the last committee of the whole. The last committee of the whole, so that's the 4th Wednesday of the month, and we'll be making the motion on Thursday night to ask the Mariner Center for permission to put it on their property.
Yes, but, exactly. I wasn't saying that, you know, whether we would support or not, but we can't
No.
actually give permission for you to go.
No, but a letter of support would be
But a
what
letter
we're
of
looking for.
support, for sure,
Yeah.
yes. Councillor Thompson.
Okay, the top question, what kind of percentage of funding are you asking from the municipal governments, particularly Argyle, I guess?
It would be based on if we were to receive some federal money as well as provincial money, and initially we're looking at 40, we would be asking for 40,000 minus whatever we can do with fundraising. Well,
Per unit, or,
yes,
because the budget time's coming up, so it has to be put into consideration.
absolutely.
Any other questions? Councillor Digley?
I heard your presentation before. I'm all for splash parks, because no matter where you go, if there's a splash park around, there's always loaded with people around it and laughing and having fun and smiling, so I'm all for it. One thing that I'm wondering about is the willingness to take over the operations once the construction has been completed. Just wondering there roughly how much money a year we'd be looking at,
Well, that's a difficult price
or
for
do
me
you
to
have a
get.
ballpark figure, or?
Most of the places that we saw, Public Works, the town operations had taken it over.
Oh, so the town's gonna take, oh, good, no problem.
Phil, you're a good guy, Phil.
Good man, buddy.
That's so, and for them to break it down into specific to the splash park, it was very difficult, so that,
Yeah, New Midas, they had the splash park on a piece of property, if anybody's familiar with that. They had the ball fields in behind the soccer field. They used the same change rooms for the soccer fields and the ball fields as they did for the splash park. So to break it down, the gentleman there, recreation director, John and Sarah, said they had a couple actually quite nice gazebos with cement floors and picnic benches. And he said you saw quite a bit of families through the summer would use that for a birthday party instead of like rent a bowling alley, do some other stuff. So they said it was a cheap alternative, but he said a lot of the costs were incorporated overall, and I think the cost of their water was between $6,000 and $10,000 a year, but they built in a lot of their costs with the other facilities that were in the area.
So I was just like wondering, are we looking, because it's gonna be an ongoing expense
Yes,
each
yes.
year. So I was just wondering, like, are we looking 20,000 per year, per unit, 40,000?
That I don't have, they haven't been able to really break that down. I don't think it was
It wouldn't be
anything,
that top, the first number that you gave, Councillor, I don't think it would be 20.
You don't think it would be that high?
no.
No,
Okay, yeah.
unless something catastrophic came, somebody broke something
Yeah.
or something like that, but I don't think it'd be that high.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just talking to the gentleman in Middleton, and the one in Berwick was quite interesting because they built on the side of theirs, inside of they had a big plumbing, electrical, heating system for their part, and then they built a kind of community room on the side, and the town of Berwick ran a daycare program out of the other part, but they did have change rooms, bathrooms, and then they had a community gathering spot on one side of the building, so that was a really nice building. Probably a little bigger than what we need, but.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Deputy Warden.
Like, I think it's a good idea. Like one of my fellow councillors on another council says, I don't mind to spend money to build something, but it's to run it after.
Yes,
Which I wish you would have an answer for that.
I do.
That's the question I've
And
got.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
anyhow, that's just
And if
to
I
let
can
you know.
get them to break it down
Yeah.
further than just ballpark of the.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will certainly get that information to you.
Just one more, so when it comes to running it, I envision like the recreation department with summer student, because it's be running during when school's out, basically. So it would be summer student, probably on site.
Most of them were not staffed.
Okay.
They were not staffed. They're self-sufficient in terms of
Okay.
running. And someone would come and open they're on a timer for when you could then press and open the lock.
So daily operation costs would be relatively low.
Yes.
Okay. That helps some.
Yes, the biggest cost would be your water,
Yeah.
and if
Yes.
something breaks, where you have to
Yeah.
repairs.
And the thing they recommended too, Mr. Warden, was in Berwick, they tried to do it within Public Works itself.
The building, the construction part of
The
it.
construction part of it, and I guess if you're 1/18 of an inch, or 1/16 of an inch this high or this low, makes a big difference with drainage and water getting in and out. And they tried to do it themselves, and then they had to go back, they thought they could save a little money, then they had to go back to the people that actually supplied them the equipment, they got them to come back and rebuild it all over and do the installation. So they recommended that outside unit that's
Yes.
Do it
an expert in
properly.
that, put it in instead of town, right?
Do it properly the first time.
right.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Hans, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a few questions regarding the cost estimates. I'm just trying to understand, professional landscape architects and used to work in that industry, and did many playgrounds in Halifax, and so just the cost estimates. These numbers so far sounds very rough. I'm not sure at what level you are at this point. Is it Class D or already further into the process?
Well, in terms of the cost of getting water to the splash park, one of the things we have to do is get permission.
Yeah.
And once we know we have permission to build on the site, then where on the site, because we also know that the Mariners Center has an application in for an expansion, and so to look at the properties and get everyone on board in terms of the location, and then looking at the water, where is the easiest access point. So that's why, in some ways, some of our estimates are a little high, but we'd rather go that way than.
Of course. Yeah, but kind of mentioned that you mentioned the Mariners Center expansion. What's the next steps in the process, and has there been like a needs assessment considered already, or for the space, or what's the process looking there in the future?
In terms of the Mariners Center
No,
or
the
this
splash
splash
pad,
park?
so it doesn't interfere with
Yes,
any
that
future.
is one of the things that we have. That's why we need permission, and then once we have that, then we look at the site so that we will not interfere with. We've looked at a couple of different spots on that property. One may be closer to the road just because of the water access, and we know it's not in the area that they're planning for expansion, but then that's also another discussion that we have to go further with once we agree that it can be at
Plus, we know the biggest, right, the group that we've had, we know the biggest possible footprint that we're gonna have if we hit the home run and we get everything that we apply for, then we know exactly basically what's gonna be where, right? There might be a couple tweaks, so we know where else on the property that you could put a splash park down. So we already know the first part, and they have the drawings and the blueprints, not the blueprint, but they have the drawings for that, so. And where it fits on the property, so anything outside of that should be good.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
Yeah, Phil, this is to you. Department of Public Works in town, did he charge for water being drained to go in your system?
No,
Is there a charge for that?
No, not for, I think if they did that, Councillor, I think that would be, like, I know in Halifax and some of the other places are doing the surcharge for
Gray
parking
water,
lots.
or
Yeah.
parking lots and that,
I think that would hit I don't think that would count as because we do have there would be a surcharge because we have water in, water out.
Okay, right,
Right?
yeah.
So, we already had that, kind of semi-disagreement with the drought last year when we did charge, but that goes through the utility review board, that's outside of our
Jurisdiction, yeah, of course.
jurisdiction to say that we can't waive that. If we did, we would have to pay it ourselves, right? So,
No, yeah, just wondering if there's a charge
the
on
only
that.
charge would be, what's pumped out, you get charged, there is a sewer
course.
charge for it.
Thank you, yeah.
Question about liability. This is an unsupervised park, so what about liability? You guys looked into it or talked to
Yes.
the other places about liability?
We did, and the CEO from the municipality of Yarmouth was going to, or the municipality was going to meet with the others to draw up a plan regarding liability.
Okay.
But the difference between a pool and a splash park, significantly cheaper and easier in terms of liability.
And I think the recreation director for the town and the municipality said, Councillor, that could fall in the parameter of what we do for ball fields and everything else, that could fall under that insurance umbrella too, so he didn't think that there would be an increase in cost, just an added place space in there, so. But
Okay,
that didn't raise a concern with the CAO or the recreation director.
one more question?
No, I just wondering for motions in order for
Well,
us to
this is-
support it.
And
A
you,
letter of support.
yes, what you're looking for at this point is just basic letter of support.
Yes.
There's no financial
No, not yet.
request or
We'll
anything.
be back for that.
You'll be back.
Also move that we present a letter of, well, you're on the committee, I should let you make the motion.
Okay, go ahead, it's fine, I'll second it.
Okay.
Good enough, good enough.
So there's a motion to send a letter of support for the splash park.
Just a motion. Just a quick question on the, what's the go, no go for your committee? So I don't, help me familiarize myself with your committee. So you're a nonprofit
Yes,
organization or just a committee meeting right
a
now?
committee.
So if you were to get permission to move ahead, would you incorporate a nonprofit organization? Is that the plan?
This committee was formed a couple of years ago, and all of the players, I think, in the initial committee, we went through all the motions of becoming a nonprofit, but then when they realized this was not a project that would be done in a few weeks, they all have left the committee. And so we've just stepped in, and it's a completely different group of women and gentlemen that are part of this committee, and so.
So it is an incorporated
It
nonprofit?
it was, the older group was.
Okay,
but-
so you're just rebirthing
Yes,
the
absolutely.
interest, okay. So when you're looking at the Mariner Center location, you're looking at, you know, your plan, but it would be your plan to do that on the municipal land, so your intention wouldn't be to own the land, that's not the plan, right? So it would be done on Mariner Center
Yes.
property that would be owned by
And then
Mariner
be
Center.
managed through the management
Right.
board of the Mariner Center.
2 units.
All right, just one other question regarding the go, no go. So are you going to, so obviously you need letters of support to support an application to federal, provincial government, whatever access you can get to money. Is your committee's plan to go ahead after you get federal, provincial funding, or will you try to fundraise and obtain the funds if you're not successful in an application to government?
We will certainly fundraise. If we are not successful in receiving grants, absolutely.
Right, so if the federal and provincial government don't support you for whatever reason, which is why you're asking us for the letter, I'm sure, then you'll be looking at fundraising and municipal dollars to fund the entire project.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for the
Appreciate it.
presentation, very, very interesting.
Great job.
Yes, for
Keep
sure.
at it.
Phil, I hope you're helping a lot.
Well, I don't, well, these guys, they just drag me along. I'm gonna go, you don't mind if I go play poker, do you?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll excuse you.
What a
Okay.
guy.
The next item is Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of January 28th. There's an attachment, we need a motion.
Slow move.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And on the
Yes.
question, just a small typo.
Yes.
Typo. Grants to organizations at city halls, it should be community halls.
Very good. I saw that too.
Yes.
In the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I missed that.
okay, so with that correction, that'll be corrected. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. Business arising, there's nothing listed. Councillors' reports, whoever wants to go ahead if you have a report. We can start that in if you want.
Sure. I attended the meeting with the 3 units, I think it was on Wednesday, last Wednesday. It was interesting and informative, and that's about all I'll say about it for now.
Okay. Councillor Albright.
Yes, I attended, I have a sticky note somewhere here, I attended a Nikhil board meeting with Councillor Bork and yourself as well. A doctor recruitment meeting as well, where we were given a report and we're seeing lots of progress that's being made. It's actually quite exciting. I also had a meeting with, we've created a recreation subcommittee for a couple of issues that we're dealing with that are going to come to council soon. But we're holding off a bit because there's still some more discussion to be had. Also attended committee of the whole, and we had a meeting with our new MLA Colton LeBlanc, as well as our consolidation meeting and YMCA meeting. That's everything.
Councillor Murphy, on the board.
Let's see, pretty well everything Nicole said. We had a waste park meeting.
Yes, we did.
And attended that. And just to mention, our local communities have started their planning for the upcoming Buptic Festival for this summer. And unfortunately, I couldn't make the first meeting, but planning is well underway.
Deputy Warden.
Attended the waste check meeting. Also, like Councillor Donaldson, the Young County Solid Waste Park meeting, monthly meeting. Also attended the waste check policy meeting in Digby. Like the other 3 councillors, I was at the consolidation 3-unit meeting, and like Councillor Dartmouth said, I'll leave it at that for now. Young County Solid Waste Park also met with Coldwater Lobster on behalf of the Young County Solid Waste Park. And that was about what the Coldwater Lobster association is trying to do is trying to get a grant through the federal government to have these mini, it's not a submarine, but it's the same basically the submarine. They're at $85,000 a pop, trying to get a grant to go down and get some of this ghost gear and some of the lobster traps, the netting, the rope that's down there in LFA 34, 33, and 35. It's a 2-year project. We met with Heather. Her name is Heather with Coldwater Lobster. Very interesting conversation on their proposal, and the reason they asked for the waste park to meet with them was the lobster traps that they'd be pulling out would be, we usually charge $10 a piece, and there could be a lot of traps coming out in 2 summers, so they want to know if the waste park would waive that. So we're waiting for a meeting fairly soon with the waste park again after receiving this information to see what we'll do. It's a very interesting conversation, and one of the big things that they believe they'll get onto this to get the grant is because of the whales getting caught up in rope and all kinds of fish net and that. So they believe they have a good chance of trying this pilot project and actually seeing what's on the bottom. I would especially think that people like Councillor D'Entremont, Councillor Donson, Councillor Murphy, I bet you guys have been fishing a long time, I'm sure. Some gear must be down there somewhere. It's an interesting project. Met with Skoka Recycling at Town Hall to cover some aspects of their recycling, what's going on with them, if they're staying for the long term, if they're going, or so we're in discussions with them. Like Councillor Albright said, met with Colton LeBlanc, I was there. The last item, sorry if I'm dragging this a bit, but this is very interesting. Obviously, we all had no power on Friday night, Saturday. Well, down in Surrey's Island, we were having a Valentine's brunch on Sunday to raise funds to shingle the roof. So, of course, Sunday no power, people can't go, all this. So we all received some emails from the Nova Scotia Power, and that the councillors have a number you can call or email if there's an issue or something. So I said 10 o'clock in the morning, all the ladies were panicking about the brunch. What was going to happen? We need power by at least 10 o'clock at night to have heat in the hall, cook our stuff. Called this number, talked to a lady at Nova Scotia Power, and she said, I can't promise you anything, but I'll put you on the priority list. I said, what does that mean? She said, since you've got, I told her we had 200 people booked. Little fit, we're 180 booked. She said 200.
You're on camera.
Yes, as a councillor, I don't usually tell you how, but he was for the benefit. Anyhow, so, she said she put out the priority list. And that would put us ahead. Let's say of a road that may have just 5 houses, which they use our power to. But she said, let me see what I can do with what you guys are doing. It's a fundraiser. She called me back at 3 o'clock and said they'll be there at 5. They were there at 5, and by 7 we had power. So the brunch went on, it was a success. Raised $3,000 to shingle the church. And I tell you what, I sent an email to these people and talked to some of the people that came for coffee and that through New Brunswick. They had trucks, and thanked them from the bottom of our heart. So I guess that number works. At least she couldn't promise. She said, I'll do what I can.
The moral of the story is
Yep.
if you want power, you gotta organize a brunch.
You gotta, that's right.
Now, at the end of the day, yes. That's it, thank you.
Will they come if I have a rocky pie in the oven?
Oh, that's it. Hey, you can always try.
You could have had it in Pubnico, they didn't lose power.
Oh,
I didn't lose
could
it
have
home.
shifted.
I didn't lose it home. Anyway, we'll continue. We have time, right?
I do think all the time.
Yeah. Needs more or less same as everybody else. I went to Nikhil, met with Colton, met with the 3 units for YMCA and the consolidation. We had a sewer meeting in Pubnico, West Pubnico last week, and I had wrote down power outage. We had power in East Pubnico, but kudos to all the fire departments that did open their halls. It was very well organized. Even the East Side community, the fire department was open for anybody that wanted to go. So thank you to all the volunteers.
Okay. Councillor Digdon.
Okay, I'll try and say this one with a straight face, but I had the honor to dance with 4 young ladies in an event called fundraiser for Kids Act, and it was sold out the 3 nights. It was a great event. They raised a lot of money for Kids Act. What I found out coming out of that is I'm not cut out for competitive dancing by no means, and so that didn't go over that good for myself, but it did for the girls anyway. Also, a bit of information: the Pubnicos lost their last World War II vet a week ago or so, Mr. Ansem D'Entremont. He had served 4 years overseas and 100 years old. So I just wanted to mention him here this evening. Spent some time at the Yarmouth Regional Hospital at the Yarmouth Hospital Radiothon, and it went over great. I responded to there was a little challenge put out by Deputy Mayor Phil Mooney, so I figured as though I had to take him up on each challenge. And that, and what else? Okay, yes, spent some time at the West Pubnico Fire Hall that was opened up as a comfort center last weekend when the power was out. A big thank you to the ladies that were there taking care of the comfort center. They had coffee and tea and some snacks for the people coming in. There was quite a few people came in. And again, thank you to the municipality for helping our community purchase that generator that enabled us to open up that day and it be used as a comfort center. And again, like I said on Facebook, when we opened this comfort center, it was meant for everyone. There's just no community, wherever you're from, if you need, anytime this comfort center is open, if you need somewhere to go, it'll always be there. So anyway, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Warden's report is there's an attachment, and one thing I know, and Councillor Digdon just mentioned it, I attended, and I don't think I included it on my report, but I also attended the radiothon for the Hospital Foundation, and matched his as well.
Yes, yes.
I guess quite a few did, because apparently I think there was about $900 through that challenge.
And I believe it was the most successful radiothon they've had.
Yeah.
And that so went
There
over
is
well.
over 120,000.
Yes, went over well.
So BCGNS played a big part in
Yes,
They do.
doing that. That was great
Yeah,
to see that.
and the communities responded well, so that's great.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has any questions on my report. If not, staff report, we'll go to our CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'll keep it brief. Administrative building, the tender package is released. We're getting feedback, quite a bit of interest from multiple sources, questions of clarity, etc. So that's moving quite along. We're cautiously optimistic that it'll be a competitive environment. So
Great.
There's, as anything else, as we get questions from contractors and subcontractors, we sometimes identify things that weren't quite entirely clear. So we do addendums to the, either to clarify or to make minor changes. We're not making any major changes to the design, so, but you know, it is it's a sign that the industry is interested. Rural internet. So rural internet, the Develop Nova Scotia, which is funded by the province of Nova Scotia for this project, announced their first round of funding, and we were not in it. Yeah, so it's disappointing. We know a lot of residents that require major improvements to broadband. So, however, I would like to express that not everybody gets in on the first round, and it's like anything else. Their intention is to get to 95% coverage of the entire province. So we will not be ignored in this second process. So there's three things I'd like to say about that. One is there are communities that have been identified by internet service providers that they are ready to they're waiting for the second round of funding in order to submit. And sometimes what has to happen is you have to lay down infrastructure before you get to those areas, right? So for some internet service providers, they had to make sure that the infrastructure was laid down prior to getting to our region. That's not true for every community that we have, but it is true for some. Number two, the CRTC has received applications from internet service providers for Argyll as well. So we're not just dealing with the Develop Nova Scotia Provincial Fund. We also have internet service providers that have applied for locations in Argyll. And we don't know when that would be announced and if we would be successful. I'm optimistic that the second round will bring rural broadband improvements to Argyll. Unfortunately, it wasn't our turn, and I know it's a very important issue for all of our residents. So I guess, you know, I would say keep confident and keep informed. And if we have to, you know, as you know, the Western Wren has led this project on our collective behalves, and they have very good people that will continue to work on this. Consolidation, we had our first meeting with the municipal units regarding discussions surrounding regional government. I think the first conversation was basically, okay, here's where we are. There's a lot of things that, a lot of structural things that require fixing. Windsor West Hants talked about their process, and you know, it was all three units listened. There were a lot of opinions expressed, but it was only really just the beginning of obtaining information. We have subsequent to that meeting, we have had a second meeting with the province, and that only included the mayor and wardens and CAOs, just more around logistics, like because if the province requires, they need to know whether there's an interest for us to move quickly on it or move at all on it. So they just want to know from the municipal units where they are. I have asked for information from the province. I've not yet received it. Once I do, I would like to call a special meeting of council, and obviously would bring that information to your attention. But at this point, I don't have that information. So anyway.
When was the meeting called for the Monday one? Monday meeting?
Friday.
Well, I was at base check, when I got out of base check, do you have any suggestions or anything like that? You know, but when you got it, it was too late to give you any of my opinion or whatever as you were going. I guess I wish I had known I could have given you a few things how I felt. Yeah. But I found it was late, and maybe it's because you might have been busy yourself. Well, I don't know, Warden. I felt you should have. I felt I could have given you my opinion then a little more.
Well, I think,
it was too late.
And maybe the email was inappropriate for me to send. I mean, ultimately, what the province wanted was an understanding of like what's happening, like what's the next step, just to coordinate. I don't think we were looking for opinions on, you know, how did you feel about the first meeting? How do you feel about consolidation? It wasn't so much about that.
That's what I thought.
But it was more like, okay, we met and we had, now we need to kind of get the logistics in play. I mean, to be as direct as possible about the conversation. Basically, the conversation was, okay, look, if the 3 units or 2 units are ready to have a conversation about consolidation, we have to understand certain realities. We have deadlines. So there's the fall sitting, the province sits in the spring and the fall. Consolidation is a legislative tool. So it requires legislation to come to the province in order to approve this idea.
It's not an automatic thing?
No. So well, what would happen is what would happen is the province, if the 3 or even 2 units were interested, the province would then present legislation that would say, and I'm just going to use an example, the town and municipality of Yarmouth are interested in consolidation, and they're interested in consolidation on this date. So there's a document that has to be produced and accepted by the legislature. So the challenge the province has is that they cannot do it in the fall because there's a municipal election in the fall. And so it would be next spring before it could be considered if you're not ready to have that consideration now. So that was the urgency of the meeting.
I get you.
Yeah, so we didn't give any instruction to the province. What we said was, thank you for that information. We needed to know that you had a deadline. We need to bring that back to our councils and have a conversation. So, and, yeah, I mean, that was really the purpose of the conversation. We did have some questions, and we asked them, and they have provided us some financial projections that I will be working closely with them to understand what it all means. We understand this isn't just a financial consideration, but that's kind of my thing. I'd like to get numbers, right? So.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it's good to know if there is, you know.
Well, at the end of the day, it's gonna boil down to a lot of finances, at the end of the day.
I think there's a lot of cases in Nova Scotia that are forced to make a financial decision, and we don't have to look too far to see
That's right.
that that's happening in the town of Sheldon right now.
Exactly.
This conversation, I want to be very clear to everyone, that this conversation isn't because any of the 3 units are in financial trouble. The conversation is because we have a lot of partnerships, and the way that they're working now requires significant adjustment.
Exactly.
And so the province would say that consolidation is a natural solution to that. There are other solutions to that. We haven't really had that discussion with the province at this time.
Yeah.
Really, the province has been really encouraging a discussion on consolidation because that's the new tool they have, right?
That's right.
So you have a nice shiny tool, you like to use it,
Or
right?
amalgamation, as some of us
So,
call
yeah,
it.
and a lot of people call it amalgamation, but consolidation is different because it's using a different law in order to get there. The result is the same.
Same, yeah. Fancy your name, like
it's
the
a-
gentleman had told me from the
Right.
government.
One is an axe, another is a chainsaw.
That's it.
The tree falls
Gonna
either
fall
way.
anyway.
Right, exactly.
I like that wording.
Yeah, so anyway, I just wanna, that discussion really didn't advance the conversation of consolidation, it advanced the conversation of deadlines. So I just wanted to be very clear,
Thank you
because
on that.
it's a very sensitive
No,
issue.
very
and-
good.
Thank you, because I know, and like Councillor Surratt said, there's a few of us, or a couple of us anyway, that thought about it as to what was going on, because we'd never heard anything about it. We left the meeting in Yarmouth saying, that we'd get together as a council, and that to talk about the next meeting, and then all of a sudden the next meeting's happening, and we didn't know about it, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the plan is to bring council together as quickly as possible, as early as the end of this week, if as late as the next week.
Thank you.
The YMCA, I won't spend a lot of time here because it's on the request for decision. The International Airport Corporation quickly signed a 3-year NAV Canada contract for weather operations. Took a little bit of a chance there, seeing as we don't have an intermunicipal agreement yet, but anyway, one way or another, we expect weather operations to continue, I guess. CBCL has been hired for continuation of their contract for runway infrastructure improvements. So we hired CBCL for that, and their work is drafted and in my inbox. Land use and municipal planning strategy, keep your eye open for that. That's gonna come to your attention. It's gonna require a lot of reading. We will try our best as staff and as planners to highlight the major changes that are occurring. I can say today that there's 3 or 4 major changes. One is a protection of water courses through what people call riparian. Yeah, well, it's basically a natural growth between your homestead and the water. So the nutrients or whatever that's coming off your property don't go directly in lakes. So, you see all these green algae blooms, and some of that is happening because of the nutrients that are entering the water stream. That would be a major difference from the past. The other couple of things very quickly would be an expanded definition of multi-use homes, like dwellings, multi-purpose dwellings, rentals. That came out of our engagement process, and a lot more definition around cannabis and what is allowable and what isn't. We had very little language in our old one, so it's to define what that looks like in the future, as well as micro and craft breweries. And the last one I would say is probably lighting, where there's the dark sky reserve is this issue has been raised, and council wants to preserve and minimize light pollution. So there will be some land use provisions included, which you know will be popular for some and less popular for others, right? So it's those kinds of issues that I'm just going to raise for you to consider in the future.
Do you think we'll need a special meeting for that last land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy? Do you think we need a special meeting to sit down with the people to explain, or the reading should be good enough for us just to read it?
No, it's going to include public participation.
Okay,
So there's two layers. So there's first is, here's the report, public has an opportunity to participate, and then you get their feedback, and then you read it again, and then you go through the process, and then you have a public hearing. You have two opportunities.
Good, thank you.
If I may?
Yes.
A question on the land use bylaw. People have expressed to me about this new vegetation buffer between lakes and oceans, and a lot of people find it's rather large, like it's quite a distance. And the Department of Environment already has pretty stringent regulations in place from allowing silt and loam to run off into lakes and waterways. And how would a municipality of our size, with the hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of lakefront and oceanfront, even police something like that?
Yeah, that was certainly a concern that we raised as staff. I think the provisions are, correct me if I'm wrong, Hans, it was 25 feet, correct? 25 feet from the coastline. So it isn't as, I think initially it might have been larger. In terms of enforceability, it's a great question. We'd have an issue with enforcing every backyard in the municipality. So, but we would have that, certainly we would have that issue in any instance with noise bylaws, etc. I think, you know, our best bet is education around that. I don't know that we can focus a lot on enforcement.
I mean, I'm not gonna win no friends with our neighboring municipality, but I just think it's not necessary, because with the environmental laws that are already in place, I wouldn't want to buy an expensive piece of waterfront and then have to leave 25 feet of alders and trees in front of me.
Right.
I would have vegetation, but I'd like to have my choice of what was there, not leaving natural vegetation.
Right. And this is something we will certainly make sure is discussed in full when we have the draft in front of you. I can't recall I mean, I think you can create that with your own.
I know of two situations where people have gone and done what they wanted to do long before they build their house, knowing that this might come down the pipeline.
Right.
Okay.
So they'd be grandfathered in.
Exactly.
Right.
Much like myself, but mine's been there over 20 years, so. But anyhow, I'm not in favor of it. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
I'm not gonna make John Creeper very happy, but.
I thought you might make John Sullivan happy if he doesn't have to
Police.
check on every property. Okay, all right, well, thank you for that, and we'll certainly have more information for you as we have the draft in front of you. That would be the extent of what I would share on my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that are either in the things that I've talked about or that's included.
Am I able to ask a question?
Usually, it's up to council. Usually we have questions come after.
Well, that was my question, is I see in the agenda that the
There is.
internet's going to be brought up again, so can I table a question or wait for a question at that period of time? Warden?
It's the way we do it.
Yeah, it's usually the way we do it. We don't usually allow questions during the meeting itself, but there is an opportunity at the end. Okay?
There isn't rural internet on the agenda.
Well, according to item number 12,
Oh, yes, you're
For
right.
information, yeah.
Yes,
Well,
internet for Nova
well,
Scotia, initi- yes, of course, absolutely, okay. Great,
Yes.
thank you for
Thank
telling,
you.
thank you for
Yes.
telling me what our agenda looks like. You come here more often, you come here more often.
I just want to make sure that I can ask the question.
You can ask the question.
Keep us straight, buddy.
Yeah. See, it was on the back page. We don't flip.
All good. It's all good, I'm having a good time, it's interesting.
Good for you.
Okay,
Okay, any questions for our CAO on his report?
Great report.
We've done a lot more debating during his staff report than we probably are allowed to.
You know, it's interesting though.
Well,
It's a good chance to ask questions.
And they always present a nice staff report. I enjoy reading it over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into it.
If I'm being honest, I'd rather you ask questions than me go drawing over and over on my staff report. So
Oh.
anytime interrupt.
Oh,
It's,
That's right.
it's your meeting
Sure.
after all.
And
Like that.
when something comes up, sometimes you might think, I'm gonna ask a question after, but then
You forget.
it's gone.
I have not offended at all.
That's you.
That's, you know, as long as you can control the
Yes.
meeting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Council priorities, number 9. We have the airport downsizing. We're not there yet.
Well, there's a bit of a red spot there.
There's a red
Yes.
spot.
So the green is the progress, and then
The
the
red
red is the regress.
Right.
So just that we have been, for a variety of reasons, paused on intermunicipal agreement. But I suspect we will be hitting it very, very quickly.
Yes. Next one is your Mariner Center expansion, which we're 100% in what we could do, and now it's just wait and see. Alternative and affordable housing, we've got the road in. And again, that's going to, we're gonna have some expression of interest later on for anybody who's interested in establishing something in there, on our properties. The admin building, that was in your report. And the Eelbrook Fire Department financial contribution. I'm not sure where they are with what's going on with them, but,
I don't think they're a whole lot further ahead at this point.
no.
I think their estimates came higher
Yeah,
than what they were
Oh.
anticipating. so.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
yeah.
We've been down that road.
Yeah, we get that.
Absolutely.
That one.
It's a process. It's a process. Yoast Architects is their architect.
Architect.
And I believe that they are looking at a project manager as well before they get into the construction period.
Okay.
Just so that I'm clear, the $200,000 commitment
Mhm.
remains.
Yes.
It's just, it didn't happen this year. So I suspect that 100, it'll just be delayed a year. So your commitment hasn't changed.
Right.
No.
No. Okay. Number 10 for decision, low income exemption. Those are tax exemptions? No. Yes, that's for taxes, tax exemptions. Now, did we just change the amount?
Amount of income, right? That's the tax exemption.
So the policy shows,
I see.
the policy's highlighted in yellow.
Yeah.
And what happened was, we actually never changed it from the last time.
Okay.
So we identified that as an error that we require approval from you as council to, well, it's actually, would be your notice period. So at the next meeting, you could approve it. The first page, the one pager
refers to tax exemption applications.
Sorry, I went to the second
That,
page.
that's the history from last year. So last year we had 113 applicants,
Yeah.
most of which were received the 150 tax exemption, meaning that their income was below 22,600, and obviously not higher than another number. So, so most of which land in that category. Below 26,000 income gets 100,000 tax exemption.
100,000?
$100.
Yeah.
Dollars, yeah.
That's,
be nice.
that's quite an exemption. $100 tax exemption. Suddenly 33 applicants feel like they were ripped off by $99,900. So most of which really the below 17.6 income level only attracted 14 applicants. That's a $200 tax exemption. So your option is to leave the income and exemptions alone, or to have a different amount, threshold or amount. We don't have any recommendation this year. I think we changed it last year.
Yeah,
It
we
might-
did, yeah.
So we don't have a
Still pretty
recommendation, but if council insisted, we would dig in and provide you with an optional amount.
Just one question. Raises in CPP and old age pension, it's not significant, but if it goes up enough that they would put them over the threshold, would that, I mean, we should check to make sure.
Yes.
No, we can certainly do that.
And, yeah, I like for as many people to qualify as has been qualifying in the past. And-
Not any less.
And just the moderate raises they do get may put some people over, that's all.
You're right.
See, it doesn't stop them from being qualified, it stops them from being qualified for 200. Like,
Right.
what they do is they fall into all of a sudden
Yeah.
they lose $100.
And there is a provincial program too, I believe.
There is.
Yes.
Tax exemption.
But if you do both, you can do something like what was that? Like, if you apply for both,
Yes.
you lose on one of them.
Well, you don't get the full benefit. So what happens is anybody who's on the supplement would qualify for the seniors rebate, the provincial seniors,
Which is half.
which is half of your taxes
Up
to a
800.
maximum of
800, I think.
I think the maximum amount they can receive is 400.
Yeah, well, that's right.
50% of 800.
50% of
okay.
800. Yeah.
Right, so 400, so yeah, so they're restricted to 400. Now what happens is it would, your rebate would be applied first. So if they qualified and let's say they had taxes of $800 and they qualified for the $100 exemption, it would go to 700 and then they get half of 700. So they'd lose 50, well, I mean, they'd still get two rebates, they'd still get more, but if they lose half of our exemption because they're only entitled to their net amount. So
Yeah, but it's,
we get a lot of interest and a lot of applications for the Nova Scotia seniors rebate. We help a lot of people in that area. So if you'd like, we can come back with amendments. For practical purposes, we may have to recommend these sooner rather than later. So if we're gonna do a special meeting for consolidation, we might be able to provide adjustments that quickly.
And that
So-
would become first reading? Or is this still
yes.
considered first reading?
Well, I would think it would be a fairly considerable change. I think it would have to start, the clock would have to start on the day that you would make the approval of the changes. Because we don't have an option for you, I think we probably should have we should have that discussion at the other meeting. And then by end of February, we could approve the policy. For practical purposes, if we knew that it was gonna be okay, which we probably would at that meeting, Bonnie can go ahead and start the process, and letting people know of the changes.
Okay.
So is that what we wanna do? We wanna wait?
Well, that was my suggestion.
Yeah.
This is what I think
that
too.
makes
Sounds good
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Just to
then
make sure.
deal with that, but you would have to come up with some figures, is that
It's
it?
not a problem.
Okay, good.
Just the numbers.
So we leave that for now. Storm and hazardous condition policy.
You have had notice, this is for approval.
This is for approval. We've discussed this.
Slow move.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. Procurement policy. This is just for first reading. Or did we discuss
You would have
this?
received notice via email on this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Put an
okay,
email on
okay.
this.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
So this is an amendment to the original.
yes.
I believe the items are, well, they're no longer, I don't think they're highlighted anymore, but they were at the time you looked at it. And
Yes.
mostly to make it easier on us, meaning our thresholds are really low, and it forced us to be very slow in obtaining quotes.
Mhm.
And it was actually working against us. So most of the changes, the other changes, and Hans, I'm sure can speak to them from a technical perspective, we stole from East Hants that have a procurement officer. So we made sure that we consulted with them when we made the changes. And I don't know if there were any changes that you wish to speak on.
I think there's one major change. It was an addition is section 9, is supplier disqualification clause that we didn't have in there before. So now this gives us the right under, well, it's more of a protection clause for how we conduct business, to protect our investments from any potential fraudulent activities or insufficient services that are not to our satisfaction or not as per contract. So that protects us and potentially puts list suppliers, contractors, engineers, and put them on a disqualification list for a year. And that wouldn't allow them for bidding on projects within that year until they can appeal to council that decision. But it has to be very, very duly documented, so that it's not easy to put that in place. It's under very strict circumstances. It's all described in clause 9. But it is a protection clause for us, which we didn't have in there before.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept or approve.
So move.
Move. Seconder.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question.
Question called. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. The community litter. So we plan on 2 changes on that, but that, we can approve that now. This is not something that needs to be.
Yeah, correct.
So the interest certainly has grown, seems to grow every year. It's a great.
The people that are littering are not getting any better. I walk daily, and I walk through a section that gets cleaned every year,
Yeah.
and it's gonna
Doesn't
need
matter.
cleaning.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
It might be
disgusting.
getting worse, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is.
I used diapers yesterday in the road, a whole bag of them. I mean, anyhow.
Yeah.
I recommend that we are up in the amount, I can't do math quick. Here, Ellen, help me, by almost $4,000, 3,800.
Yes.
So I'll suggest that we make that motion. I've been in favor of this program since it come out in the very beginning, and it's one of the better ones that I like seeing in action. It's ordinary citizens out there volunteer raising money for their
Exactly.
nonprofit groups, and makes me feel good to see them in action.
Okay, so is that a motion?
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
Yep.
Moved and seconded?
Second over there.
Calvin.
Calvin, I heard, but I
Yep.
didn't see where.
Should I read out the suggested motion, or do you have it, Lori?
You have it?
So basically, it's a $22,000 budget
Yes.
for 110 kilometers of cleanup at 200 kilometers for qualified organization.
The
People
200
know
kilometers
what
is,
we're talking about.
yeah, and the 200 is an increase from 175.
From 175, exactly, yes. So
This year, we're committed to run this program twice, is that as described?
That was there as
One in
well.
the spring and one in the fall.
yes,
Last year, we ran a little bit too aggressive in the spring and then couldn't run the fall program, unfortunately, but we still managed to clean 110 kilometers.
And the earlier the better in the spring before the
That's right.
vegetation.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
ticks
the bugs.
and black flies.
Okay, there's a motion, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. West Pubnico sewer connection.
There was a, sorry, Mr. Warden,
Did I
and
miss one?
it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to entertain the second motion, but the second motion is that we be authorized to develop an incentive policy. So we had like a program, so every year we like asking permission, but we've never actually put it in policy. What we're suggesting is, let's put it in policy, and, you know, starting at some point in like the fall of probably as the new council comes in,
Yes.
we'll review all policies at once, those that are developed.
Yes.
And so you'll be able to review your policies once a year, which is, really should be your practice, is that you should be reviewing your policies once a year, all at once, you know, because we forget sometimes which policies are in play. And so anyway, so that's what would be my recommendation, to put that into policy. Doesn't mean you can't change the amounts. It just means the policy will define what staff should do.
Okay, so we need a motion for that.
Slow move.
Moved,
Second.
moved and seconded. And the motion is that CAO will be authorized to develop a community litter incentive policy for future years, to be brought to council approval prior to August 31st. So, motion on the floor, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. West Pubnico sewer connection. Now, this is for the new development that's going on.
Yes, correct.
And they need a bigger
Bigger pipe.
hookup.
Bigger pipe, yeah.
Yeah.
And normally, that would be their cost.
No.
No.
Normally, what would happen is the municipalities would generally be responsible for putting a lateral in. And anything past that on the property, whether there's a holding tank or something of that nature, anything special, pumps inside of the house, etc., would be costs of the
owner,
resident.
the resident.
So it's not obvious because we've already put in a lateral. So because of the nature of the development, the developer is asking for a bigger pipe.
That's right.
And so you know, one position that council could take is, well, we already put in a lateral, we're not gonna pay twice. Other positions are included in the report that say, essentially that you could do a partial or
That's right.
full financial support. There's two aspects of this decision. I can speak to the financial one, and I think Hans is probably better suited to speak to any other issue here, which is the other piece was the
It's a bylaw exemption.
the bylaw exemption, right? So the bylaw exemption, I'll go through the finances now, and then Hans can go through the bylaw exemption. So basically, the finances, the way that we look at it, it's fairly straightforward. There's two elements to this cost. One would be, there is a design cost for putting in a design, a redo, essentially. That design cost has been incurred by the owner thus far. What we're recommending is that we would pay 100% of the lateral replacement for a variety of reasons. It fits entirely within our strategic objectives. It falls right into what council wants to spend their money on in order to improve housing options for the community. To me, it fits entirely in your strategic initiatives. But I would recommend that the design cost still be incurred by the developer. And the reason being is that is specific to their development. And so that would be the recommendation that we would be bringing for your attention. And there is a
suggested motion, and I guess I would refer to Hans to talk about the actual exemption.
Yeah, that's the, I think step one is to create this exemption before discussing any financials. Currently, the West Pubnico sewer bylaw only considers single-family housing for their laterals. So this is a multi-units developments, which is currently not considered in our bylaw. So with that situation, the developers in a position, they're required to hook up, but they can't because the lateral is not suitable. So with that, the council has to make a motion to make an exemption to upgrade this lateral and make this development suitable and feasible, or that they're allowed to develop their lands under the land use bylaw. Because their requirement for the density, they have to hook up to the sewer. So that's why we have to make that exemption and to go around that bylaw, part 4, section 4. That's highlighted in the report.
Okay.
So do you need a motion?
We need 2 motions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a motion. Oh, did you have something to? No.
Oh, no, I was
No.
just, no.
Okay, so we need a motion for the exemption of the.
That's the proper order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we can approve. Okay, so that's the first motion.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to make this motion here this evening because it was something I've been working on a while down there with council, with Hans. Hans has put a lot into it, right up to doing some drawings for the lady, flower beds and the whole bit. So, and I'm very happy to report too that she's getting great response.
Okay.
And that, so I'd make the motion, council approve the motion to create an exemption to the multi-unit development on Franks Road as per bylaw number 30, part 4, section 4, in the order to create a suitable connection.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. Now we need a motion to proceed with the lateral upgrade and use, okay, to pay, does it say here?
Yeah, it says all / 2/3.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, because I didn't know what you wanted, so I.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
prepared to make that motion,
that you to pay all,
yes.
to pay all.
I'll second that one too then.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just want to add that, the price of, I forget what it is, 8,619.
Yeah.
I assume that we have a hookup fee of $1,000 for hooking up to the sewer.
Correct.
So if you, just right there, it's 7,619.
That's
Well,
right.
it may actually be a little bit more than that. I'd have to look at the bylaw because there was, the fee contemplated the treatment plant expansion. When we did the treatment plant, there was a capital fee associated with that as
Yeah,
well.
that's
So
right.
it may be more than $1,000
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
right, yeah.
but
And
obviously
then-
we'll follow the
And
bylaw.
after a few years of collecting taxes, that bill will be paid.
We're
That's
gonna
right.
recoup that money pretty quick.
Pretty quick, so
Yeah.
It's a good investment.
Yes.
We have a motion. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried.
So you do business in Argyle, I guess.
Okay.
So you do business in Argyle, I guess.
Yes. Letter to DTIR, Active Transportation Plan. And that comes from,
Used to.
from
From you, Daddy.
Oh, yeah.
That's a nice letter you wrote.
Good in your writing, Daddy. So do you need a motion
So
to
this
send
is,
this? Is that what you mean?
I think we have
Yeah.
to approve this.
Yeah, yes, essentially, it's taking the recommendations that you have already approved.
Yes.
And putting them up, making sure the TIR is aware. So, basically, when we look at active transportation, one of the things that we have is a partnership opportunity with the Department of Transportation. So when they do new pave, or if it lands within our strategy, then we can ask them to either invest or we can co-invest to make sure that there's a path, active transportation, whether it's like a larger shoulder or whatever the case may be. So the recommendations that were part of the report that we had that you approved are here. And so I'd asked Natalie to draft a letter on behalf of you, and I think it's appropriate to have a motion because it has implications. It could have financial implications for you. If these projects come to bear, you may be asked to share a cost.
Yes.
So we didn't want to do it blindly.
I never realized that Tuscan had a pinch point.
No.
Tuscan has a pinch point, 1,300 meter pinch point. Sorry.
I'll make a motion that we accept this letter for active transportation plan.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded.
On the question of, like, I mean, Clare has, municipality of Clare has used this program for.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But it boils down to a density, population density. Like
Exactly.
the new pavement through the communities of the Argyles wouldn't have qualified because of the population density, but somewhere like Upper West Pubnico may.
Right, exactly.
So that's, I mean, I'm looking through it and, you know, I'm, you know, of course we gotta send a letter, but, you know, I guess looking, it's quite a wish list when you really,
It is.
you know,
But it will
boil
only,
down to it.
it would only apply when new pavement projects
Yeah.
come on stream.
Yeah.
And then we have the choice whether we want to share or not. I mean,
Well, the first one to rebuild the former Trunk 3
Yes.
bridge,
That is quite an ask,
that's quite an ask. You know, how many years did
but
Councillor Surratt work to get a bridge to Surratt Island where, you know, there's a population?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
we
so-
just figure it out.
But anyway,
yeah. So
that may be coming sooner than you think.
than you think,
there you go, I hope.
you know, and not
I'll have to
because,
see
and
it
not
to
because
believe
of
it.
this,
Not because of
and not
this.
because of
It's
this.
the fixed in the keel situation.
Yes. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. The next one, YMCA request, building assessment request. And I think it's something that we all agreed, people that were at the meeting, that we would go with this.
I so move that Argyle support the YMCA Yarmouth request for financial support for their facility condition assessment to a maximum of $13,333.33. No, it doesn't say 33 cents, being 1/3 of 40,000.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried.
I'd provide you professional advisory services on that decision, but you lost me at pinch point. That's it, I'm done. I can't, I'm done. I can't speak without laughing. I just,
Tuscan pinch point, yeah.
Notice period, grants to organizations. So this would be our first notice for the changes.
yes. So there are probably some minor changes that might come, but nothing that would be, that would get in the way of approving this. So what we want to do here with the grants program is, you see the changes that have been made. A couple of things, some of it's just simplification. The reason why we're upgrading this now is to match the online piece. So we have an online application system now, so we were making changes to reflect the fact that it's online, like instead of saying you need to fill in the papers. So there was a lot of changes like that. And also, there's a couple of other things that I would like to note on this policy and on the online process. So first of all, we did make a change on the district community grant. The district community grant, or I guess it's community grant, called the community grant now, will not be an online application. So you will still get the letters from your community.
Yes.
That hasn't changed. The only thing that will be online is for the community halls, as well as the
the regular, what I would say regular grants to organizations with the deadline of April and September. So that, none of those have changed. We do have a provision in here that we'd like for you to be aware of and hopefully agree with, is that we'd like to see a copy of the request brought to the clerk on those district community grants 2 full business days before the actual meeting date, to make sure that we can check to make sure that it qualifies and that they haven't asked before and that you have enough room. So if it's brought here on the last day, we can't provide you that information, but we can provide you that information if you give us 2 business days in advance. So on a Tuesday meeting, that would be Friday, right? By Friday, just say, look, even just to let us know that a letter is coming, that we could potentially even add it on, and then so we can do a little bit of work in advance so that we're not caught.
Okay.
By surprise.
By surprise,
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying.
by, you know, giving, you know, the Club Acadien 2 $500 amounts in a year, or giving, you know, $4,000 and you only have 3. So things like that. So we just want to make sure, and plus there are some qualifications that they have to meet. So we can do that for you to make sure that you have that comfort. But we can't, it's hard for us to do if we get it on the same day. So, and that, again, this is your policy. If you're okay with that, then I realize your residents would have to adjust, you'd have to adjust their expectations around
That's right.
when they would provide you a letter.
That's right. And I don't think it's too much to ask if they have a request. It's not too much to ask of them to have it here on time so that we can, and that if it comes on the day of the meeting or whatever, that it's not gonna get processed until the next meeting.
And the only time that that's gonna be a significant issue is in March.
Yes.
Right,
when
where
we're getting close.
Where you're
yes.
getting close to the end, like, at
Exactly.
that point, we have to all be flexible.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
Right,
exactly.
we're not unreasonable people, we just,
Right.
you know, we know that if there's an opportunity for a grant to be issued before the end of March,
That's right.
we'll make every effort to do that. So the other thing on these changes that you should be aware of is, number 1, any ask above $10,000 or over will automatically trigger a presentation. But the opposite is also true. So if somebody is asking for $5,000 in the online application, they will not be asked to prepare a presentation to council. There's nothing in the policy that says that they can't do a presentation, but when the online application goes through and your organization asks for $10,000 or more, it will tell you, bing, you need to prepare a presentation to council.
Okay.
So automatically, they will have to prepare one, not to qualify for the application, but that you will not make a decision without getting a presentation from that organization. So they know that, and some people don't like presentations, so maybe they'll ask for $9,999 and fall below the threshold, and that's entirely fine, but you know, we have to pick a number, and you still have the option to ask for a presentation. It's just they will automatically be asked.
Okay.
At anything 10,000 or over,
Yes.
whether it's a community hall or an
That
art
was
center
my question.
or
That was my
anything,
question.
doesn't matter. Whatever it is, they're gonna get asked.
That's
And so,
right.
as you know, you made a decision to go with $10,000 per
Yes.
unit, a maximum
Two.
of 2 halls per year, which means every application for community halls will have to do a presentation.
But yes, that may not be accepted.
Correct.
Councillor Roy.
Just a comment. Okay, so a community hall has to fix their roof. They're gonna make a presentation that they have to fix their roof, and usually a roof, it costs around 10,000, sometimes more.
14,000, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, is the answer to the question. But if you don't want that, then that's up to you, right? So this grants to organizations policy will ask, will force, I guess, anybody asking for 10,000 or more to make a presentation to council. There is a second policy. If you recall the last discussion, we had a community hall policy which is separate. Inside that policy, we asked the same thing, but if you think that that's over the top, then you can make that change. Basically, what we're saying is the computer is automatically gonna tell them at the 10,000 threshold, unless you tell me different. And then if you don't think that a presentation will be.
Because I find that a community hall, usually if they're gonna ask, like we're giving them up to 20,000 for 2 halls, right? So I'm thinking, Okay, well, usually they're gonna do that to do renovation, so any renovation in a community hall is gonna be quite high. They have to replace windows, they have to replace a oil tank or whatever, so.
Furnace.
Yeah, furnace, I mean, those are high costs, so, to do a presentation on renovations, I think personally, I think it's a waste of time.
And that's entirely up to council.
I know what you're saying, and you've got a good point. You know, if it's a furnace, come with a furnace, you stand up to the mic and you say,
I need a
want
furnace because I
and you
gotta
sit
heat the
down
hall.
It's kind of defeating the
Yeah.
purpose, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying,
It's a quote. Have a nice day, right?
have a nice day.
I don't know, it's just,
Yep.
it's just.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Kathy.
There are, and there are other, that's a valid point. There are, we actually discussed this and wondered whether we should do that or not. There are other things that they have to do to remain accountable for the money that they're earning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they only get 80% in advance.
I
They
agree
have
with
to
that.
prepare an expense report at the end, and they'll only get their 20% after they do that. So if you feel like that's enough, then what we should do is
I
change
think
that
that's
provision
fair, yeah.
for community halls.
I honestly feel as though
Same
that's
here, I do.
enough. They're working hard, a lot of these, you know, they're a lot, all volunteers, they're working hard just to keep their halls up and going and everything. And to come have to do a presentation again and provide that, I feel as though we've got safeguards in place to watch the money that we're giving out anyway, as far as the 80% and the 20% after everything's completed. And we have the right to ask for receipts. I think that's enough myself, really.
I agree.
Yeah, we had one round of community hall programs, 15,000. Nothing was abused or taken advantage of that I know of, so.
Same here.
Well, because they can
The
use
less-
more, really, right? Like,
Yeah.
most community halls need more than
That's right.
15,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and we never asked them to do presentations in the
Right.
first.
No, you didn't.
No.
But the evaluation criteria, the application form,
Yes.
and what we required of them was far more than what the online version will be.
Oh, I get you.
So, which is why we considered it. But I'm with you. I mean, if that, so what we'll do is anything exceeding 10,000 will require a presentation. So because they're capped at 10, they won't require a presentation because it's anything above.
That'd be good.
That's okay, huh?
Yeah.
Especially for a community hall.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, great. I certainly agree it ought to be different with community hall because there's other measures. And we go at them, like we actually meet with them in advance as well. There's a lot of accountability.
It's not the same thing as you're having a project to do something, but when renovations, it's different, in my mind.
We know,
Great point.
we all know who they are and, you know,
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
noted.
we've all dealt with them before.
That's right.
We will reflect those changes in
those
the
changes.
final.
Thank you.
Any other comments or with the changes?
The only thing, there's a blue 3.1, it looks like blue, maybe it's a different color. That's likely to come out. There used to be old language around section 65, around you can't exceed 1.5% of the tax levy.
Yes.
It's actually old language, so we probably would take it out.
Okay.
I wonder why it was in blue.
These will be able to pass these at our next meeting?
Yes,
Correct.
this is our notice here.
Okay.
Okay, we're okay with this one?
Yeah.
Oh, community hall grants.
Right.
So that changed.
I think we spoke about it, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we.
Councillor
spoke.
Donaldson didn't want one policy.
I remember that, that's right, yeah. Okay,
It'll be easier to renew it in the next few years.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
So the changes in this one would be that there would be no presentation
Right.
right,
requirement.
exactly.
And all the accountability, I think we've already discussed.
Yes. Okay. Next one is correspondence and for information. I'll go through them. A guide for land use planning for economic development. Financial condition indicators.
Mr. Chair, could I
Yes,
ask
yes.
our CAO. There's one in yellow, 3-year change in tax base. Is that something, 5-year budget accuracy, anything? There's a reason it's in yellow? It's highlighted because you don't see any, I mean, a 3-year change in tax base is because there's been not a whole lot of growth.
Yeah.
Would be the answer or something like.
I can, so first of all, that box is yellow for the entire county. What it represents, so we're not the only ones with the yellow.
Very good, yeah.
What it represents is the fact that you are above a percentage that, like a standard, that the province has put out, but that you're actually not growing as fast as the average. So what happens is if you're ahead of both, you get a green. So if you're ahead of this pre number, and if you're ahead of the other rurals of, other rural districts, then you're green. You're yellow if you only meet one of the two, and you're red if you're below in both situations. So this is a healthy financial result.
Yes.
For the things that we control. Right. So the things that we control is uncollected taxes. Well, we have some control over that. There are budget accuracy. We have control over that. Operating reserve planning. There are some things, however, that we don't have control over. That's one of them. We don't have control over the market rates. We'd like to do things to improve that, but we don't have direct control over it. Reliance on the single business institution is a very important one. It shows that our tax base is very diverse. At 0.3%, that's as low as you'll find in the province. Means that what it means is that we don't have like one big company that generates a big chunk of our property taxes.
Yes.
So, for instance, Bowater,
Northern Pulp.
And then there's those, and those are those that have been closed or threatened to close, but there's also those like Clearwater in Lockport that are still operating, but there's a risk, right? There's a risk that if those institutions decided to do something different, it would really hurt the municipal unit. So for us, because we're primarily residential, there's a lot less risk in that area. Although you would, if major business was to fail in the region, it would have an impact on us because we would potentially lose population. But we're not relying on one single business.
So I guess our biggest single business or institution in the municipality is the wind park, tax-wise?
Yes. I would say that the wind park in Pubnico generates the most taxation revenue of any. It's close, but it's possible that it's number one. If it isn't number one, it would be number two.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything above that. I'm trying to think of the other businesses. There's quite a few businesses that are associated that if you put them together, they might come close, but I don't think any of them come close. I could look into that, but
No, you don't have to. Just,
our reliance on a single business is on the sea.
That's right, lobster.
Yeah,
That's right.
Like,
And it's not taxable.
yeah.
It's not taxable, so.
But we're in pretty good shape,
Absolutely.
for sure.
And 0 deficits in the last 5 years. That's great to see too.
That says a lot.
Yes, it
Tell
does.
you that says a lot.
The number that a lot of people kind of like go by is the last one next to the yellow. It's called residential tax effort. And what that represents is the percentage of the cost of residential taxes compared to their income. So there's two things going on there. There's your average household income, and there's also your cost for your residential taxes in comparison to that. So that is a low number. 1.7 is very low. Some of the towns are at 4.
So it represents like 4% of the total income of your family is going towards residential
Well,
taxes.
that's what that means.
Correct, so we're at 1.7, that's a very healthy number. I know a lot of people don't like to pay this tax, it's a big bill all at once, but in comparison to other places in Nova Scotia, it is an affordable number. There's two reasons why, one is the ability to pay, and also the cost of it. So that doesn't represent, that's the average. So for people that are low income, that number's a lot higher,
Yeah.
right? So I wanna be clear, right, it's an average.
Yeah, and in our area, that number could change pretty quickly too,
It could.
because of our reliance on the industry, right?
Something happened, yeah.
The median income in the municipality of family income is about, in Argyle, the last information they had, it's probably higher now, it was like 55,000. And in some of the towns, local towns, it's like 35,000.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a big difference.
That's the
right?
median, that's not the average, that's the median.
The median,
Yeah.
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, and they pay more taxes in the town than they do in the municipality, so it.
Mhm.
All right, that's a great point, yeah.
No, that was good. Okay. Active transportation budget. YMCA letter, that was a letter from the YMCA.
That could have gone under the decision.
Yes. Internet, Nova Scotia Initiative.
This is the one that.
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna go through them. And then before we go, okay. I'll go through what we have here, and then if we can go to first questions. Argyle firefighters minutes, the association. Community navigator activities.
She likes to provide a report of the things that she's working on.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Kind of interesting,
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
She's set to give a presentation
Mhm.
next month.
Okay, good.
Great idea.
I wonder if there's any way, I guess, probably there's other people involved, but any way that we can help in other ways, I guess, when it comes to recruitment and retention, I don't really know how, but.
right now, at this point, we're being seen as leaders. Other
Okay.
areas are
Good.
looking
Or-
at us.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
She definitely has her heart in this project,
Mhm.
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay, next one is financial request. We have,
I'll let you, project listing is there.
we
Or
can
you
wait
can-
at the end.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, same
Yeah,
as
all
what
right,
we-
I just-
yeah,
okay,
same
sorry.
as what we usually do. We'll go to the end of the meeting and then we'll, because there's only the grants now. Village Historique Acadien.
That's mine. I make a motion that we give $500 to the village. They want to use the money for the summer camp. They've got a summer camp going. It's been 2 or 3 summers now. It's been a great success. So $500.
Moved,
Kathy,
moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Contrary-minded, carried. Friends of the Island, that must be,
that's mine.
yes,
The Friends of the Island, they're looking to put a sign like there is in Emerald River in West Pubnico, a sign that
yes.
welcome people to the island, and they're asking for the price of sign at L&N Signs for $450
Yeah.
plus tax, and they'll be doing the work to install it within kind, help and that, so they're asking for $500. And it's being asked through the Club Social des Îles, as they're not they don't have an account or nothing like that, so that's why it's made to the club.
Oh,
I
okay.
so move that motion,
Second.
so move that.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried.
How's that gonna work? I guess I'm just thinking,
I'm
if the
thinking the
Club
same thing.
Social asks through the Friends of the Island, how about if the Club Social is asking for 500, does that eliminate them from the second ask? It's 2 different entities,
Great
but.
question, but I've
you know
done
what I
that
mean?
before.
I'm just trying to help you
No,
out here.
no, I've done that
You know what I
before.
mean? it's being asked by the Club Social, and if they decide to ask two, then really technically they're not eligible, I don't know, just.
Technically, the district, I mean, I think it's okay, and I'll tell you why. The community grant isn't necessarily, where your grants to organizations are typically nonprofit,
Yeah.
the community grant's a little bit looser. So you could actually provide that funding to an individual in order to do that work.
Oh,
Yes.
It's less, there's less
That's right.
rules around it. So, I mean, technically what you're doing is being cautious, and I think that's good, but it also could cause a problem if
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
social,
Well, no, I
Didn't realize that.
yeah.
They can give the money, but they can't apply twice.
the Club Social can apply twice.
And it's the Club Social that's applying here.
No, it's the Friends of, who's actually applying is the Friends of the Island, and I put care of, I asked them to put care of Club Social des Îles, but they don't have an account at the
Oh,
bank.
okay, so just,
If they get a check to Friends, they don't have an account.
just for the transfer of money.
For the- Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah,
done that
Now I
before.
see.
yeah,
Yeah.
So by.
yeah, okay,
Yes,
good,
yes.
good, as long as we don't get in trouble. or-
No, that, I wouldn't wanna do
Yeah.
anything that's illegal.
But that's been, we already passed that. Yes.
Yeah.
That moved in past,
Yes.
yeah.
Indian Slough Seniors.
Indian Sloughs, that's mine, Indian Sloughs Seniors is looking for a district community grant of $500, and that's towards buying they have a shuffleboard mat, and people some from SAR, some from Wedgeport come to Muir's Hill, and they play shuffleboard on it, the mat. There's enough people at times, one mat is not enough, so they need another mat, and they're also gonna do some entertainment, suppers and a few extra things, so that's why they're requesting the $500. And I so move that we give the $500.
Second,
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Next one is mine. I'll explain that it's the Hubbard's Point Community Center. They have an annual fundraising supper, and it's usually called the Micarene, but
Yes.
that, you know, it's raw pie and seafood chowder and whatever. So they didn't put an amount on their ask, but usually I give them $500 for this event. And if someone would make that motion for me, because I can't make the motion, to give them $500.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded?
That's a foster
Here.
home there?
Pardon me?
That's a foster home.
so that's their 19th annual already? Holy.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, they started that a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that, the first ones, there was actually Micarene. You would dress up and,
Yeah.
they've kind of gotten away from that, but they still call it the same.
My DPR has gone in, dressed up, and everybody recognized him. He's about 7 feet tall.
So they'd go and change and come back.
Oh, Mikey for nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, agenda topics for next meeting, anybody, or motion, notice
no.
of motion?
Ladies Auxiliary.
Oh, we have another one, yes, I'm sorry,
That's all right.
go ahead.
And before I get to that one, I just want to let the council know that the developer of the proposed housing project that we just approved the sewer hookup for wants to thank council and for the decision and for the help that she is receiving from the municipality.
Okay.
And that she gave me a text, so just wanted to let you all know. And I have an ask for $500 from the Ladies Auxiliary of the West Pubnico Fire Department. And that's gonna be going towards the help purchase kitchen equipment.
Okay.
So I make that motion.
Second,
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Contrary-minded? Carried. Okay,
Topics for.
topics for next meeting.
I think I would like some information on biannual tax bills, the way Barrington does it, what it would mean financially for our municipality, the hardships, the benefits. I know, I work with a few people from Woods Harbor that like that system. I mean, we have it in there for information, so I don't know, like, is it something anybody be interested in entertaining? Like,
I think we've gone through this
Before.
but it'd be good to just
A while ago.
have information on it.
I think the last time we talked about it, I wasn't sure, I think our Procom system was a little immature at the time. Meaning like we had just changed the software program and it was a little clunky. Last time we had this conversation. So I'd wanna revisit, I can get that information to you. How Barrington does it is the bill goes out sometime in like April, and it's usually based on last year's tax rate, because the tax rate hasn't been completed yet. And then there's a second bill that occurs, I think, in September. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly.
Adjusted?
And so they adjust it. So it's like maybe 60% at the front or 40%, depends. You can choose whatever percentage you want, and then the rest of it happens in closer to the fall.
No, I'm just wondering if it would be easier on our residents more than anything, like,
Yeah. Doesn't hurt to look.
You know, get the information and
Yeah.
it's pretty
No, I
easy to
mean-
get for you. Yeah,
I mean, it don't have to be the next meeting, I mean, it's,
at some point.
when you have a chance, it's the task to do that.
Yep. We can definitely look into it, along with the pros and cons of considering each option. We do have a monthly payment system that a lot of our residents take advantage of.
So that may be all this required.
Well, it may adjust when the interest becomes payable.
Right.
Right, so the first bit would be less, it wouldn't be the full amount, but then at some point interest would kick in, and then it would kick in again, right? So that's the only, anything is possible, it's just there's some pros and cons to each, but we'll bring that information to you for consideration.
That could possibly, Mr. Chair, that could possibly hurt I say the cash flow or money coming up front. I remember speaking about that quite a while back, and that was.
Well, it depends.
But we'll let you look at it. Maybe I shouldn't be asking that right now.
Yeah.
Wait till you look at it.
Yeah, it depends. We'll definitely analyze that for you.
Okay. Sorry to make you wait so long.
No, it's okay, I was thoroughly enthused by this conversation. First of all, I'd like to make a motion that somebody give me $500. I'll disapprove that right now. I'll second it.
Can we get a second?
Whose district are you in?
Yeah.
Whose district are you in?
Argyle.
Okay, well, look at Richard then.
Argyle Head.
Oh, there, Richard.
And I guess my question is more revolving around the rural internet service and the announcement, and in particular, I had some questions with regards to if the municipality of Argyle knows how many homes or how many families are affected by not having high-speed internet at their residences. So do we know what kind of percentage it is in our community? I was having this conversation with one of the provincial assessors, property assessors, on Friday night at the hockey game, I was asking him how properties get assessed for taxes, and with regards to properties with the ability to have this and properties that don't have this are based on the same tax base. So meaning my house equal to a house in, say, Argyle Sound that has high-speed internet and mine that doesn't, put those two properties equal, put them on equal footing, mine might not sell as quite as fast as that property would be. So my question was, why am I paying the same rate of tax for something I don't have access to? And so for me, I was told that the way the provincial assessments are done are that they don't take that into consideration specifically. They don't make any judgments as to what people have or don't have. It's just the selling of the properties within the area. But I still argue, I guess, for lack of better terminology, that there's a shortfall to one property that doesn't have the ability to have this. So if I made a presentation to you and said, here's two equal properties, and I want to sell one to you, and one of your questions would be, do one have internet and the other one doesn't? It's a diminished value concept to me.
Yeah.
And so I guess I wanted to bring that to council. I wanted to ask council, percentage-wise, within the tax base, how many of those people do we know are affected by this? That's part one. And then part two, do we have a timetable as to when, we didn't make it this time, but
When
Like,
it
is it
coming?
6 months, is it 12 months, is it 24 months, is it, you know, when that project is? Because I'm a property owner in Argyle, I have a 17-year-old son, and I spend $555 a month on internet because I work from my home.
Wow.
And I work as an insurance adjuster, and I need high-speed internet. I made a buying community. I came to the community. I made a buying decision 10 years ago, not having that even in mind. But now 10 years have gone by and nothing has changed. I can get an antenna for my house that pushes at 20 megs per second, and that's nowhere near fast enough to upload half of the technology I use. So I guess my concern would be that A, I'm paying taxes the same as somebody in Pubnico who is the same, or Argyle Sound that has the same similar size of house and the same similar situations as I do, but I'm not getting the same benefit.
I'd like to correct you, Argyle Sound doesn't have high-speed internet.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of upset people through Argyle Sound, because it's probably the worst in District 6, which I represent, goes from the foot of Veal Lake, if you know where that is.
Yep.
To the start of Pubnico, Argyle, and the only high-speed internet in the whole District 6 is from Pubnico up to the doctor's office. And then there's a little stretch by the substation in central Argyle. If you're within half a kilometer of that substation, you can get high speed. But anywhere else, believe me, there's nobody any more frustrated, but maybe you and me.
No, that's why
Because I was trying to look at a map that they sent out for internet where it's under service. I couldn't even run the map to see where the problems are, right? I mean, I emailed him back. I said, I guess I agree with this report, but I can't follow the map because I can't even open the darn thing.
Well, your counterparts in Clare are calling it an essential service.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think it is, and I'm at a loss because myself and probably 65 other homeowners on the Argyle Head Road. I can speak about the Argyle Head Road.
Yeah.
And here's the crux of it all. When you call Bell Canada and ask them to hook you up, there's a node sitting right there on the corner of the Argyle Head Road and the Argyle Road, where the high school is. There's a node right there that they can connect to in 2 minutes and run a wire down the road and have 60 or 70 customers in a matter of 3 days.
So how far up the Argyle Head Road do you live?
2.75 kilometers right up.
You know it, baby.
I do.
Yeah.
My son goes to the high school, the school has it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
I get you.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about the school.
well,
Yeah.
the school has it, but you step outside the school, you make the turn, the houses on the corner have it. But make the turn, go down Argyle Head Road, and nobody has it. So I'm not here to ask you to get it for me. I know you don't have that capability, but I really wanted to find out timetables as, like I have, I've had a teenage kid ask me every month, any news, any news, any news, any news, and then when I read this, and I said, oh, look at Argyle's not on the list, it frustrated me beyond belief because we're a community, this is a group of people that are proactive.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not on there, so
Yeah.
I guess my concern would be, my question really ultimately is, do we know how much there are that don't have it? That's part one, and part two, what kind of timetable are we looking at before we do see it?
Right. There must be a number there.
We
must have.
do have it. I don't have it here.
Okay.
We do have it. And so what we have is, not only do we have where people don't have internet, we also have where people have inadequate internet because there's a difference. I mean, the idea is that, and I know in your community it's not good. Like, so your community is probably one of the least accessible to the service, and into Argyle Sound as well. We're committed to getting you that information. I can get that information probably within 24 hours. We have been, the municipality of Argyle has a financial commitment ready to go.
as soon as we can get an internet service provider to submit a plan that's accepted by Development Nova Scotia or CRTC. That I believe, and again, I'd have to double check, I believe it's about 6 to 8 months before the second one gets announced for Development Nova Scotia. Again, I would want to confirm that for you. It is not a year or 2 years, it's not, they really want to roll it out as quickly as they can. We have been in contact with an internet service provider, a very well-known internet service provider that has identified all of the issues that you're discussing and is prepared to submit Argyle in round 2. We know that. But we also, what I don't know is the status of the CRTC application. I don't know how long that takes. So what we can do is, and we certainly can add that information on our Facebook site, not just for you, but for the rest of the residents to see, so that they can be equally as alarmed or disappointed as you might be around it. Unfortunately, they couldn't fund them all at once. And we're obviously, as staff, we're disappointed that we weren't on the list, but we're also very encouraged that we will be on the next one. And I think it would be important for you and other residents to continue having the conversation. If, in terms of your, I'm trying to answer the administrative questions. In terms of your concern about the property value, it's a legitimate concern. You should have received your property assessment report. Yes. The deadline to submit an appeal, I believe, is tomorrow or Thursday. Thursday. I think it's the 13th. It's the 13th. The 14th is Friday. So.
I have no issue with the property value that's assessed for my property. I have no concerns about that, and I have no issues paying my fair share. Yeah. That's not really why I wouldn't even try to appeal it. That's not what I just feel that if you're looking at it from a community-based process, there are maybe hundreds of properties in Argyle that are suffering the same situation. And I say suffering, I use that word lightly. I don't want to. This is not a heartache. It's not a hardship. I'm not feeling any hardship here or anything. But the reality to this is that there are people paying X amount of money for their property taxes that aren't getting the same thing as their neighbor.
That's great.
And so that would be more my concern.
It's a valid point.
Yes. And then I guess ultimately at the end of the day is, what's it to say that council can't go outside of this initiative and get it done themselves? Is there something that says?
Money.
None of the applications that have happened have been successful unless they had an internet service provider attached to the application. Obviously, I think the Valley tried to do this and they had to take a different route. I think you're quite right. There's a difference in value, or at least perceived value, for homes that have internet versus not. It's in our interest to fix the problem, because it will increase the value of homes if they have that kind of broadband service. It will. So it is absolutely in our interest to do that, which is why we have set aside money as soon as the application gets done. We can, unfortunately, it's not our process, so it's difficult for us to influence it directly. But there's always, we can always, have more conversations and try to identify the urgency of the issue. Now, I'm trying to answer your administrative questions. I'm trying not to answer politically, because that's not really my role. That's their role. But they have made a commitment to as soon as we can get an application in, boom, the money is there. And so they are a strong supporter of the project. It's just timing, unfortunately. Okay. So I'm happy to get back to you with the answers to those questions. I really appreciate you coming in to.
Yeah, I just been sitting this. When I read this, I was looking at it going, oh, okay, this is great. Because I spend a lot of money every month on, 200 gigs of internet at $500. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hard to imagine.
Unbelievable.
I have a constituent that runs a business, and she's not gonna be able to run the business where she is now, and she can't get her internet hooked up at her house to do her business, so she's frustrated as well, so,
I have
yeah.
a box, it's called an LTZ box, and it's basically a cell phone.
Yeah.
But I can't dial it out, it's a cell phone, it sits on my windowsill in my bathroom, so I can get a signal.
Right.
For an LTE signal, so that it's like using your cell phone as a hotspot.
That's right.
Right.
If I get 40 megs per second there, I'm doing very, very well.
So you need good cell reception to even do that.
Yes.
See, where I live in Lower Argyle, I don't even have good cell reception, so that option wouldn't even be available to me.
And the old towers that you put on your house or whatever, I mean, depends on where your house is.
Yeah.
You're either in the high or in the low, and you might catch one signal, you might catch another. Anyway, you guys all know the problem, so but I appreciate you listening to me.
If you wanna keep lobbying, the people I would go after is the Western Ren, because they're the ones that put in applications on our behalf. And
We certainly are there too.
they would have way more information than we would have, and more people that lobby.
My 17-year-old tells me we'll get it, but it'll be the day he goes off to university.
Isn't it the
And
way?
I agreed with him,
My
he said that's exactly what it'll be.
Oh, yeah.
I promise.
The heck of it is,
blonde when I.
the heck of it is, it could be. Maybe we should just give you that $500 to run a bunch of wire. You know, that would be the
To the
idea.
school, yeah.
Won't even pay a month bill.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for,
Okay.
thank you for listening, I appreciate it.
Well, thank
Well,
you for coming and telling us.
Thank you for
Yes.
coming in.
Opening our eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is an in-camera.
Have we got one tonight?
Negotiations, it says.
Negotiations.
Yeah, it's just
So in-camera
Move to
is,
go in camera.
wouldn't be long.
is no public.